The following is a brief overview of Seattle Central Community College and how historic events have helped to shape this multicultural urban campus into one of the finest colleges in the nation. The slideshow is the brainchild of Seattle Central Community College Dr. Tony Ogilvie, a retired administrator. Seattle Central's student body is perhaps the most diverse in the state, and its core value and mission statement reflects that. Seattle Central now sits on the original site of Broadway High School. Note that the property was purchased for only $64.09 back in 1898. Seattle Central traces its history back to historic Broadway High School. To accommodate a dramatic increase in population, Broadway was built in 1902 to house 1,500 students. By the 1930s, the student enrollment jumped to over 2,300. The student body was very multicultural and excelled in academics and sports. The Broadway High School fight song is performed by the Broadway Alumni Association. The association continues to provide scholarships for Seattle Central students.
Loyal, united, orange and black all hail, singing Broadway's praises as we swing along the trail. Rock, rock, rock. Friendly, courageous, striving for the right, backing our team with spirit as they fight, fight, fight.
In 1942, 30% of the student enrollment at Broadway was Japanese American. Along with other Japanese Americans living on the West Coast, they were sent to relocation camps for the duration of World War II. Note the student with the Broadway letterman's jacket standing behind barbed wire. The school closed in 1946 due to a drop in enrollment. The following are a few of Broadway High School's notable alumni. Jeff Watts is a retired Seattle Central administrator who is now in charge of Broadway Alumni Room.
Seattle Central Community College may be the only college in the state that is so closely associated with a high school that closed over 60 years ago. To find out more about Broadway High School and its rich tradition, come and visit Seattle Central Community College, Broadway Performance Hall, and the Alumni Room.
These are some of the many historic items you will find in the Alumni Room. Once again, the Alumni Association performs the school song. Due to a drop in enrollment, partly caused by the evacuation of Japanese American students during World War II, the school closed in 1946. To accommodate returning soldiers after World War II, the school transitioned into Edison Technical School and focused on retraining veterans and others needing new vocational skills. Do you know who this famous Edison Technical School graduate is? It's Bruce Lee. To his left is Jesse Glover, Bruce's first student and alumni of Seattle Central. In the early 1960s, plans were being developed to build a Seattle Community College. Do you know where the original site was to be located at? Beacon Hill, next to Veterans Hospital. To accommodate a large student body and staff, Seattle Central had to use several buildings, including the following. In the late 1960s and 70s, the civil rights movement in Seattle was in full swing. Seattle Central was the site of numerous civil rights protests. In 1969, the Black Student Union accused Seattle Community College District of targeting students. North Campus was targeted for high-skilled technical programs. South Campus would have high-wage blue-collar courses, and Central would be left with entry-level and remedial classes. The BSU and SDS staged a sit-in at the SCC Administration Building. The Board of Trustees chairperson and Seattle Central president told a group of over 250 students that they saw no reason why the demands could not be met. The BSU felt that the administration was going back on its promise and called for a student boycott of classes in April of 1969. In 1969, the Black Student Union and SDS led a dramatic and violent takeover of the Summit branch of Seattle Central. The next day, the demonstrators attempted to close the Broadway campus, but the police were waiting inside. Students charged the main door, but were beaten down by the police. In 1969, Mark Kronowski was the editor of the school newspaper, The Collegian. He first went to the sit-in to cover it as a reporter. However, he believed so much in what the BSU and SDS were doing, he decided to join them. The college would not respond to the BSU and SDS demand, so Mark wrote an editorial 3 weeks after the demonstration blasting the college as racist. In the end, the governor, Dan Evans, appointed an African American to the Board of Trustees to be a liaison between Seattle Community College District and the African American community. 2 years later, the Oriental Student Union accused Seattle Community College District with employment discrimination. Out of 90 administrators, none were Asian Americans. A Seattle Community College District official stated the reason that Asian Americans were not hired were because they were overqualified. Frustrated that the board was not taking the OSU seriously, on February 9, 1971, the OSU closed the SCC Administration Building. OSU co-chair Mike Tagawa explained to the demonstrators and their supporters why they were protesting. The following is the original tape recording from that demonstration.
The purpose of this rally is to get Asian administrators hired into Seattle Community College District 6. This is the North Campus, South and Central Campus. As it stands right now, there are 98 administrative posts and virtually no Asians. Now you might be thinking, well, maybe no Asians tried. Yeah, well, some Asians have tried. There's a well-known art teacher from Cleveland High School. He's now presently at Franklin, I believe. His name is Frank Fuji. He was supposed to be up for division chairman of art. Well, what happened to Frank was that he got aced out by some guy with no experience and only had a bachelor's degree, while Frank had a master's degree. The excuse given to him by the administration was, Frank, you are too overeducated. We can't afford to pay you enough for your education. That's one. Henry Marr was promised a position as department head. The administration has been trying to shuffle Mr. Marr, trying to bury Mr. Marr, and just teaching. They've fallen through on that. Mr. George Iwasaki, who is now head of the Minority Affairs Department at North Campus, was up for division chairman of the electronics. What happened to Mr. Iwasaki was that when it came down to the final vote, his name mysteriously disappeared from the list. So we're not just talking about no Asians not trying. We're not talking about people not making any effort. There has been an effort made, but it looks like there's been a stronger effort made by the administration to keep them locked out.
OSU members and supporters picketed the district office on Broadway. The OSU was supported by many groups, including the Black Panther Party, Brown Berets, Native American Association, Radical Women, and the Asian Student Coalition from the University of Washington. Seattle Central President Dr. William Moore disagreed with the protesters and directed his remarks to OSU chairperson Alan Sugiyama. After an angry bullhorn exchange between Al and the president, the demonstrators then took over the administration building. After the demonstration, the Board of Trustees told the OSU they would only consider but not guarantee the future hiring of Asian American administrators. So on March 2, 1971, the OSU and their supporters once again closed the administration building. This time, they didn't leave until the Seattle Police Department kicked them out and arrested 4 of the members. Following the second demonstration, Asian community leaders met with the Board of Trustees to show their support. The trustees agreed to hire an Asian American administrator by fall quarter 1971, expand the Asian American courses, and to one day hire an Asian American as president of one of the campuses. Frustrated that only a limited number of African Americans were working on publicly funded construction projects, the UCWA took to the streets and closed down a number of projects. Seattle Central was the target of the largest and most violent demonstration. Construction workers refused to stop work, so they were beat by the demonstrators. The next day, construction workers came to the work site with shotguns, knives, and bats. However, many of the UCWA leaders were arrested before any violence could occur. Tyree Scott addressed the demonstrators. To his left is King County Councilperson Larry Gossett. Many of the UCWA leaders were arrested, including Tyree Scott, Todd Hawkins, and Bob Santos. In 1972, Bob Santos was the vice chair of the Seattle Human Rights Commission, and he had this to say about the demonstrations.
What's interesting about Seattle Central Community College is that over all these years, they have continued to hire progressive people who have had or developed close ties to the minority communities, and the communities have always looked at Seattle Central Community College as their college.
Against the protest by construction unions, on July 13, 1972, Judge Lindbergh added 2 members of the UCWA to the Court Order Advisory Committee, which paved the way for African Americans to be hired in the construction industry. Tyree Scott went on to organize other African Americans in cities throughout America. He passed away in 2012. The turmoil of the 1960s and 1970s clearly made Seattle Central and the district more sensitive to minority and progressive issues. Today, the college has distinguished itself by producing outstanding graduates and by being a shining example of how an urban campus can compete with any college in the nation. Seattle Central has won numerous awards. The following are just a few. Perhaps the most prestigious award was College of the Year by Time magazine. The following 2 slides show what some of the graduates are doing today. Since 1966, Seattle Central has had 13 presidents. Can you name all of them? Here's a look at each of the 13 presidents. King County Council member Larry Gossett was involved in the BSU demonstrations in 1969 and was also arrested in 1972 during the UCWA protest. This is what he has to say today about Seattle Central Community College.
One of the things that impressed me about Seattle Central Community College after those early days of protest is that of all the institutions for higher learning, it has maintained over the decades the best commitment to hiring people of color in leadership positions.